I think I'm stuck in a loop. Out of all of Adrien Brody's performances, these 10 films and one short film seem to have the strongest hold on me. So let's talk about them. Let's start with boredom. This is, in all likelihood, the thing in this video that I've seen the most times. Boredom is charming, funny, and very different from most of Adrien's other work. Adrien's character Danny finds adults boring, so he decides to start living his life like a child. So I'll put some links in the description to where you can watch it online if you'd like to see it. So we'll kick off the feature-length list with Midnight in Paris. This was the third Adrien Brody movie I ever saw. Yes, he's only in it for 3 minutes, but it still counts as an Adrien Brody movie. This one was actually pretty pivotal for me in my life because it was the one that made me decide I wanted to see the rest of his movies. So we have it to thank, or blame, depending on your perspective. Since I watched his films in kind of a haphazard order the first time around, I decided, okay, I'm going to go back and watch them in order now. And so I started a blog to chronicle my rewatches, everybrodymovie.com, which I really should get back to at some point. And so that blog in turn led to my previous channel of the same name. When that channel kind of crashed and burned through fault of my own, I kind of shut everything down, regrouped, and came back stronger, if I may say so, with this one. So Midnight in Paris basically led me to what I'm doing now. Now I don't know if that's cool or kind of sad. Now, The Pianist may seem like an odd choice for frequent viewing, but hear me out, I do have reasons. It was the first Adrien Brody movie I ever saw and the first one I owned, and the only one I owned for quite a while, so that's part of the reason I've seen The Pianist so many times. But also, to me, it's an uplifting story ultimately. It's about one man surviving under insurmountable odds. And that little bit at the end where they tell you that Spielman lived to be 88 is just beautiful. Plus, it's kind of cool that a pianist lived to be 88 when there's 88 keys on a piano. For some reason, King Kong was on television a lot. Various networks, various times of year, times of day. It was just kind of always on, and I would tune to it and see, where it was in the film. And if it was near the part in New York where Jack drives the cab, the scene I mean, I would stop and watch, and then I would stay till the end. So I think I've seen the third act in New York the most times of any part of the film. I'm not sure how many times I've actually, put the film on and watched it all the way through, but that's probably a pretty high number too. Next is Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's just such a calming movie. It's an easy watch. The runtime is not restrictive, and it's the kind of thing I could watch in front of my daughter when she was younger. I didn't have to worry about what dialogue she was going to pick up, and it just kind of continued as a tradition, so we still watch it a lot. Now, Adrien only has a tiny mouse-sized cameo in this one, but it still counts. So I'm running this list from things I've seen the most to things I've seen the least. I don't know if I made that clear in the beginning. But next up, kind of right in the middle, is the Darjeeling Limited. I've recently decided that this one's my favorite. I kind of go back and forth with this one and the Grand Budapest Hotel. So a Hear Me Out episode about the Darjeeling Limited is in the works right now. So I'm still kind of formulating my thoughts about it. But for now, I will say some of Wes Anderson's films, they're like just to the side of reality, where, there's like a made-up disease name or a made-up country name or something just enough to make it not real. And with this one, it is very real, and you get that comedy and tragedy in your daily life. It's just kind of the human condition. So I like that it showcases that. I feel like the sibling dynamics are pretty realistic too, especially if you've been in a situation of being estranged for a while. And not to get too personal with this, but I will also say the depiction of what it's like to have a self-centered and impulsive mother is also pretty spot on. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Moving on. Next up, we have the Brothers Bloom. If you've seen any number of my videos, you probably already knew that would be on the list. Adrien's character Bloom is so lovable, and you knew that too, because you also watched my video on the top 10 most lovable characters. Thank you. Now, the Brothers Bloom is a little jarring tone-wise because it goes from kind of like a screwball comedy to really tragic, kind of at the drop of a hat. But I don't know, it kind of keeps it interesting in a way. There's still some slight humor here and there, but yeah, that wacky nature it had to begin with is just completely gone at a certain point. The fun parts are fun, the silly parts are silly, and the sad parts really make you care about what's going on. So I think all of that kind of combined makes the Brothers Bloom really rewatchable, so here it is. Next up, we have The Village. That'll sound weird to some of you. I'll be doing a Hear Me Out episode about this one too. It's an underrated film in general. It's an underrated performance of Adrien's. It's a misunderstood film and performance. The culture of The Village, so to speak, is just different enough from real life that it helps you escape and kind of forget about reality for a while. And sometimes that's what movies are for us. And so that's what The Village is, and that's probably why I've seen it so many times. Next up, we have the Grand Budapest Hotel, which was my favorite for quite some time. I go back and forth, as I said, with the Darjeeling Limited. It's such a lovely experience of a film. It's just enough skewed from reality to pull you into its world, but it's grounded enough to where you can relate to some of the characters and some of the dialogue feels real to you. The love story between Zero and Agatha is very sweet. Dimitri, whom Adrien plays, is such a classic kind of movie villain, the kind who ties the damsel in distress to train tracks in an old silent movie. So yeah, he's just a lot of fun. You love to hate him and hate to love him. You know, the cast is just wonderfully assembled, as is the case in most Wes Anderson films, of course. And there's just such a beauty about it. And yeah, there's a melancholy too, and there's a humor. And Wes Anderson films seem to always straddle that line between comedy and drama. I think it's one of those films that feels different depending on the mood you're in when you go in. And so that it just sort of makes it more rewatchable. Now, as with The Pianist, The Jacket might seem like a bit of a heavy choice for frequent rewatching. But first of all, it's near the end of the list, so I haven't watched it that many times. But also, Adrien's performance is just captivating, and you just kind of have to go back to it. He had to go through a lot for this film. He did weight loss again. He did hanging out in a morgue drawer wearing a straitjacket. I mean, there's a line in his episode of Dice where he says, "I bleed for my craft." And every time I watch The Jacket, I hear that in my head because, yeah. And I find myself kind of interpreting it differently every time. If you see it as reality, it's one thing. If you see it as symbolic, it's another thing. And so how you perceive it makes a lot of difference. And so you can't help but rewatch that because the experience is never really the same. The Jacket is kind of like I call it the choose your own adventure Adrien Brody movie. And so yeah, I've seen it a lot. Now, last on the list is Backtrack. It would be higher up if I had a longer history with it, but it is a more recent film than some of these, so it's down here at the bottom. I don't know what it is exactly about Backtrack that keeps me coming back to it. Once you've seen it, I mean, you know the ending, you know what's happening, but it somehow still retains that air of mystery when you rewatch it. You find yourself kind of leaning in like, what's going to happen, even though you know what's going to happen. So I think that keeps it from being stale. It just sort of remains really interesting to me, and so I've seen it a lot. Thank you for watching my list of 10 Adrien Brody movies and one short film that I have seen the most times. I'm going to put some videos I think you might like up here, and if you want to subscribe, that'll be over here. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.